Hello, this is Tim Long with Playing It Forward Coaching, always encouraging your self-reliance. If you develop a marketable skill, chase that marketable skill with a good, solid work ethic, develop some people skills, teamwork, and always go the extra mile. You'll be amazed on what you can accomplish here in this country. A big thank you to over 480 people that have subscribed to this channel, Playing It Forward Coaching. Very much appreciated. If you haven't done so far, please do so. I am getting back, and I got to do a shout out to my friend Tim Ferguson, who did some wrestling for me years ago in Hancock, for giving me the suggestion of this wonderful guy here, Joel Villaflor. I also have a connection because his sister Ruby played tennis for me many years ago. So Joel, welcome. Tell us about your story, sir.
Thank you, Coach. It's great to see you again. And like I was saying earlier, you look younger all the time. I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up.
Well, I appreciate that, Joel. Thank you.
You're welcome. Basically, I've been in the advertising and marketing space now for almost 30 plus years. Shortly after I left Syracuse University, where I studied advertising, I started out as a pre-med because, of course, my dad was a physician when I was at that time. But early on, I figured it wasn't really a good fit for me, and I didn't have the passion for it. And Mr. Carnahan, when we were in high school, and Mr. Pederson both always used to tell me, why aren't you going into art? And I was like, don't know what you do with it. So it was pretty much one of those things where after freshman year of a pre-med curriculum, I said to myself, I am not meant to be here, and pursued putting together a portfolio. I was lucky enough to be at a college, Syracuse University of Visual Performing Arts, where they were open to freshmen coming in and trying out to get into school. So I had to pretty much admit myself to college in order to get into that line of work. And when I was there, I specifically focused on advertising because I had a real fondness for television advertising and kind of the direction it was going, and print and everything like that. So the 80s was a pretty much a volatile time to be in this industry because a lot of them ended up merging and whatnot. But I ended up not moving to New York. My parents moved to Kentucky, so I moved to Lexington and actually worked for one of the largest agencies there right out of the gate. But really, what set me on the right track was working with a graphic design firm where I did mostly design for companies like IBM, Valvoline, a number of everything from packaging to print to posters, all that kind. So I learned a lot more in that shop than I probably did at the larger one because I had more opportunity to get my hands into more things and to be more involved in the work. So from there, I decided I really wanted to do more advertising, more of an advertising direction. So I took a chance of moving to Louisville and working for a large agency there, which to this day, I'm still working for, because this is my second round after it was 1999, I think I joined there. And then, from there, I went into corporate. I worked for Yum Brands, which is the world headquarters for KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut. They're no longer Long Johns, but they've got a couple other acquisitions. Then I moved to Humana. So I spent a little time in the marketing space in corporate, which taught me a lot more probably about that culture, more so than it did enable me to learn more skills. But it did help me understand the dynamics of working in an organization where there's a real focus on culture, a real focus on people recognition, and certainly a real focus on mentorship. Wouldn't say I didn't learn much from there, but what I did learn in terms of working corporate was that you as a creative get a lot more information than most of the people that are on the other side of the wall trying to get that information to create marketing and promotions. But eventually ended up living in Asia for about 6 years due to my wife's position. She was in corporate as well. So it was a chance for her to get a real feel for that globally, because she ended up becoming VP of L'Oreal in Manila. So she handled the Asian market, for a while there. I was at the same time doing a lot of collaborating and consulting with companies like Jollibee and other entities there, as well as in Singapore. We lived there for a couple of years. So I got a nice feel for working, having started out fairly modestly all the way to my experience overseas and then coming back to good old Louisville, Kentucky. And, you know, I can tell you if every experience you have, like I've had, and enables you to develop a new skill or learn a new, where the next opportunities are coming or understanding the growing trends, you know, by all means, get into that channel. I mean, I see a lot of kids today focusing more or less on social media as a means of connecting with each other, but in terms of what it's giving, you know, society and what it's doing in terms of business, it's a whole nother story, because there's a tremendous amount of business going on in the back doors of Facebook, TikTok, and various other companies focused in that area. But you know, there's so much opportunity out there for everyone to delve into new and innovative ideas once they figure out what it is that sparks their interest, you know, from high school to college, kind of like I did. So that's the long short of my bio. A little longer probably than short, but
it's all good. It's all good, Joel.
It's all relevant for sure.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is when you talked about these opportunities, whether it's going overseas or the variety of different things you got in with advertising, it kind of reminds me of Dave Rodriguez, who I interviewed yesterday, because he was somebody that Dave Figura sent me his name and contact information, and Dave was kind enough to you know, sit down for a 15-minute interview. And all he's done was run a halftime show at the Super Bowl in the mid 2000s, worked with Michael Jackson, worked with Prince, you know, just in a whole other variety. He's run the Apollo. He did his internship at some place called Carnegie Hall, which I think you've probably heard of. You know, I mean, talk about a who's who's resume, and it certainly sounds like you have obviously a different pathway, but ways that you took care of various opportunities that came your way because you created that action, you got out there.
Yeah, and I think that given the situation now, we're all sort of like a little bit isolated, and probably we're a lot isolated, let's put it that way. But quite frankly, because of technology and because of our need to connect with other people, I think there's a lot of strong opportunities to network above and beyond anything that probably existed in the past. So if you are, you know, connected via LinkedIn or various other platforms, you know, reach out to people who you think you might be interested in talking to or learning more about their profession, and it could spark some interest, you know, as to what you might want to do. But now's the time, you know, there's, like I said, there's so many platforms in which to connect with like-minded people, or certainly others who might serve as mentors and coaches, you know, towards meeting any kind of goal or opportunity you're going for.
Sure. And that makes a lot of sense for sure. Now, you've been involved with this industry for over 3 decades. What's been some of the great things that have happened to you, you know, because of this industry? Obviously, it's something that's can be, in a very good way, follow your passion, and yet you know, do well being able to monetize, or it's fairly lucrative. So tell us about some of your experiences that you know, really stand out for you, Joel.
Oh my. Well, I mean, I'd say one of the more amazing things I've had the opportunity to experience is the actual growth of technology. I started on a Mac Plus, if you remember.
Yeah,
that was the first computer. I was taking floppy disks, sliding them in, loading programs, which now I work on those programs, which are, I don't know how many generations. Photoshop, for example, everybody jokes about that and talks about it. But when Photoshop first came out, I was on that beta. So I knew exactly, kind of watching it evolve and change. And I think As much as there are times I despise what technology may have done to us as a society, there's some pretty amazing things going on in the world of arts, entertainment, design, advertising, social media. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be the place where a lot of companies and a lot of influencers hang their hat if it weren't quite as powerful as it is. So I think, just watching the changing climate of how we communicate with one another, how we market to one another, it's pretty futuristic when you get down to sort of the nuts and bolts of it all and get deep into the weeds of it. But which is why I also would always caution people, having been in this industry for many years. It's like, just, always be careful of the content you digest. There's a lot of stuff there that's probably more distraction than it is useful.
Sure,
so be careful it's like food, right?
Mhm.
If you just eat a lot of junk food, then chances are you're not going to be the healthiest individual. And content's the same way. It all goes from junk to useful very quickly.
Sure. No, very understandable. And what advice, Joel, as far as young people coming up through teens, young adults, would you give them besides following their passion? Tell us about your tenacity, your work ethic. A couple terms that Dave Fagura used there.
Yeah, I think those are great words. I would also encourage once you determine what might be of interest to you is practice. I mean, you as a coach know the value of practicing. And I think that's one of those things. I mean, I forget how many thousands of hours the statistics are before you actually master anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, having a good have good self-discipline in terms of how you practice what you do. I think if you're in a place, which a lot of kids are, I have I've got two teenagers and a 27-year-old daughter, but I would say also, spend some time, looking and being curious about different things that you see. Don't let something go by without at least scratching your head and going, how did that work? Or how did they do that? I think being curious is a very important part of sort of where innovation starts to sort of emerge for people. I think having that ability to just think beyond your comfort zone and revisit the paradigms of everything around you, like I said, gives you that mind space in which to come up with big ideas and to do things that are new and fresh in communication and everything.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense, Joel. Well, I'll tell you, this has been wonderful. Any last second thoughts? And can you hang for a little bit when we get finished here?
Yeah. Nothing. Just if anybody ever wanted to get, any kind of more feedback from me or wanted to talk to me, feel free to reach out. Coach, you probably have my information if anybody needs any advice or any kind of recommendation.
Joel, we can go one better too. Somebody, the name of the company you work for, whatever you're comfortable with. And I'll put that right at the very top of this, so people,
Sure.
if they decide to get in contact with you, shoot that to me, maybe in a text
Okay.
or an email, and I'll make sure I put that up. Okay.
Awesome.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joel. I appreciate it. Please tell your wonderful sister I said hello, and I missed some of the tennis days with her and Nancy Terwilliger and some of those other awesome young ladies that we had at that point. And we will definitely stay in touch, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
You too, Joel.